Deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Elijah McClain, and other black men and women at the hands of law enforcement produced a nationwide push to defund and reform police departments across the country. That nationwide push led a host of cities to include police reform initiatives on Tuesday's ballots. In Minneapolis, voters elected to say no to ballot question 2, which called for the Minneapolis Police Department to be dissolved and replaced with the Department of Public Safety. The 52% no to 44% yes vote signaled to many community and civil rights activists a potential dampening of the Defund the Police movement. Meanwhile, Cleveland voters voted yes to ballot issue 24, which amends the city's charter to establish a civilian board of police oversight. The amendment would also allow a commission of citizens selected by Mayor-elect Justin Bibb to investigate misconduct, determine disciplinary actions, and guide policies regarding police practices. Cleveland's Police Patrolmen's Association has already vowed to fight the amendment in court. The association president has stated that the proposed changes violate the contract that they have with the city. Joining us to discuss the performance of police reform initiatives on election night is retired member of the LAPD and author of Black and Blue, The Creation of a Social Advocate, Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. Sergeant Dorsey, what do you make of what happened with all of the police reform ballot initiatives on the ballot yesterday?
Well, I think, people need to be very careful about what they ask for. And all of this defund the police, in the minds of some activists and others, it really means disband the police. And there's no mayor who's going to allow his city to go without proper police personnel and resources. And certainly just breaking up a police department doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have folks who have empathy, compassion, and respect the lives of Black folks. In Jennings, Missouri, in 2011, that police department was disbanded. That's where Darren Wilson came from, and then went over to Ferguson Police Department where he shot and killed Mike Brown. And so just renaming and bringing in misfit toys from other departments isn't going to solve the problem. And that was pretty evident by what people voted in wanting to maintain their police force in its current state.
What do you make of the ballot initiative in Cleveland that actually won support, like overwhelming support?
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, it's great to have a civilian review board. We have one here on the LAPD, but if you don't have any teeth behind that review board, if you wind up having civilians who can make a recommendation like ours does, and then the police chief says thank you, and then goes about his business, his or her business, doing whatever it is that they want, then what have you really accomplished? And so absent teeth, absent something that can really compel a police chief to do a thing is really just more of the same.
One thing that these initiatives demonstrated for a lot of people was that the Black community is not a monolith. Many of the Black people who were in high crime areas, like areas that were experiencing a surge in crime post-COVID, like a lot of places are around the country, were the same people who were saying, I just don't trust the idea of abolishing police right now or getting rid of the police department as I know it, because I don't know what's on the other side of that. Talk to us about that dynamic in the public where people absolutely don't want police to be abusive, but they are very skittish about the idea of getting rid of police departments altogether as we know them, even though police would have still been in Minneapolis. The police department as we knew it would have been gone.
Listen, I mean, for all intents and purposes, the majority of the police officers on these departments are doing the right thing, and that includes Minneapolis. Nobody wants a city to be unmanned, if you will. What people want and what people deserve are police officers who are going to do the job as they swore and took an oath to do. And when on those occasions we find officers who don't have the right temperament to do the job, you would expect that a police chief would have the intestinal fortitude to make the right decision, hold that officer accountable, get them off the department if that's what needs to happen. But for whatever reason, they act as though accountability is a four-letter word and just something they are unwilling to hold an officer to. And that is the problem, wholesale accountability.
Mm-hmm. Minneapolis may well have been the epicenter of the defund the police debate. With this failing in Minneapolis, is that signal the end of defund the police as a major issue in American politics?
But in my mind, I think it's a moot issue because, like I said, you have to have a police department. And while I don't say no to some of the other initiatives and reforms that they want, like having medical professionals and clinicians respond when you're dealing with someone who has a mental impairment, that's a great thing. But by and large, we don't have the ability to freeze frame, stop, call a timeout when we run into somebody day to day doing our business as a police officer that has a mental illness. And the work around that is all somebody has to do is say that this person is violent. And now we're not going to call a clinician. Now we're going to call the police, which is what's going on in New York. If you call for someone who's having a mental illness situation and they say the person is violent, guess who's coming? The police. So you want the right officers to come and respond.
Is there a way to train our officers out of the predicament that we are now in, where we still do see too much violence directed at Black people and people of color?
Well, you can't train away racism, right? And so let's not pretend that there aren't a whole plethora of officers out there who have racist tendencies. We know that they exist. The FBI and DOJ told us that they have been infiltrating these departments. And so what needs to happen is that officers who are identified, who have shown us who they are, we believe them. Now we need the police chiefs to get them off. So listen, you had Derek Chauvin with 1923 personnel complaints, whatever the number was. Garrett Rolfe, who shot a Black man in the back, had over a dozen. Officer Tao, who stood sentry for Derek Chauvin, had been the subject of a personnel complaint. It cost the city $25,000. So it's not like they don't know who the bad actors are. They just will not hold them accountable. Unless and until that happens, we're going to continue to have the same situation over and over and over. So the community needs to get involved and get engaged with these police chiefs and with these mayors, because every chief serves at the pleasure of an elected mayor.
And that brings up the idea of the federal legislation that was supposed to address at least some of this that fell apart. How disappointed are you that that fell apart, and would it have addressed some of these issues?
To my mind, it would not have, because that's on the federal level. And a lot of what they were talking about in the George Floyd Justice and Reform Act absolutely would do nothing to stop a Derek Chauvin. It would have done nothing to save the life of Breonna Taylor. They're talking about prohibiting no-knock warrants. Well, guess who serves no-knock warrants? Not federal officers, local municipalities serve search warrants for narcotics. So preventing a no-knock to be served by a federal officer would not have saved Breonna Taylor's life. We've already got prohibited chokeholds in many places. And when they use a chokehold, what do they tell us? That wasn't a chokehold. Daniel Pantaleo absolutely used a chokehold on Eric Garner, and they said it was an upper body seatbelt restraint. So there's always shenanigans going on and ways around what we know is nonsensical. And that act, the George Floyd Justice and Reform Act, in his name did his family, his memory, his legacy a disservice. And the attorneys who represented that craziness understood that. It would have done nothing to change what's going on. And look what's continued to happen since. Mm-hmm. There hasn't been any respite in them killing us with reckless abandon.
Mm-hmm. Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, author of Black and Blue, The Creation of a Social Advocate. Thank you for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.